Thank you for taking the time to view our previous video. We got some great questions that I'll be answering for us today. One of the questions that we received following the video was related to common mental health diagnoses that I see with BBS children, adults, and families. So overall, I see a wide variety of psychological, emotional, learning, and behavioral issues in kids with BBS, just like many other kids. And I also see a lot of kids and families that seem to be doing incredibly well, despite numerous medical, psychological, family, social, and financial challenges. I've never been able to predict what kid or what family may be struggling or coping well based just on a medical history. Statistically, there are higher percentages of children with BBS that also have learning disorders, intellectual disabilities, or developmental challenges. But of course, that does not predict what any one child might present with. Before the age of 5, we may see different global diagnoses or delays that may include speech, vision, occupational, or social concerns. Autism spectrum disorder has also been observed among some children with BBS, just like it has been in the general population. However, some of the symptoms of BBS might look like autism. So I would strongly encourage families, if they have concerns about autism symptoms, to get a comprehensive evaluation. And that should include different providers such as speech and language therapists, occupational therapists, psychologists, and other medical providers on the team. Down the road, we may see comorbidities such as anxiety or depression that may present for either yourself or your children. So either way, it's important to seek out evaluations and to seek out re-evaluations if you have concerns to make sure that everything is going the best that you can and to get any services or recommendations. The next question that we received was related to advice for parents of young children with BBS who may be struggling with anxiety, rigidity, or different sensory components. So first thing is, this is a great question. And what I would kind of like to know is, what have you tried and how did it go? Did it help? Did it hurt? Did it do anything? Oftentimes, those are some of the big indicators of what the triggers may be. I would also wonder if you reached out to anyone else involved in your child's care, such as their special education teacher, a psychologist, or a pediatrician. And again, see how their recommendations went and then where we can go from there. If none of the above have occurred, you are not alone. The first thing I'd kind of recommend is to help readjust and structure our time. I know that times right now can be pretty unpredictable, but creating a routine is key, especially one that is visible and able to be easily read by your child. Think of routines and schedules as time machines that allow us to look into the hours, days, and weeks into the future. They prep us for what's expected. And that's one of the best things when we look at anxiety and rigidity, is prepping our child for what's going to come so they can help prepare to make transitions go smoothly. Another thing that could be really helpful at home is having a calm down space or area. A calm down space doesn't have to be a separate room. It could just be a quiet part of the closet. It could be in the basement, and it can include comfy pillows, string lights, noise canceling headphones, different sensory machines, anything that helps make your child feel safe and secure. This can be the place that you could recommend them to go. And over time, they may start to go them on their own to help feel relaxed. Regarding some of the sound sensitivities, this can be challenging, but one of the key things is to identify those triggers and come up with a toolkit that we can have before we leave the house. So headphones or earplugs can be really helpful, and we can keep them in the car. So if we go somewhere that's loud, we're prepared. If homeschooling is on the agenda or virtual school, we can schedule in some sensory breaks in between there to help our child feel regulated and not as overwhelmed. And this should occur, again, in a calm down space, not at their workspace. Whenever possible, try to alert your child before a sound might occur. If the tornado sirens test go off every Tuesday, let's let them know that that may be coming up. And again, white noise from a fan, a sound machine, or different apps on our phone can be really helpful with blocking out the sensitivities. When it comes to touch, again, let's prepare them for ahead of time. So if we're going to wash their hair and they may not like the feeling of water, we can let them know that we're going to be putting water on their head. It's going to be coming down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then going slowly. We can also try and teach our kids effective and creative ways to let other people know that we like to set boundaries and that touch may not be the best thing for us. So for example, if we go to a cousin's house or aunt's house, we can say, ugh, Aunt Ann, I don't really like hugs, ugh, but I'll give you a high five. So what are some alternatives that may work for your child that we can maybe compromise on? Clothing is another area touch that might be addressed. They may not like the feel, the fabric, jeans are too itchy, too scratchy. So what I'd recommend is trying to find a clothing that works. Buy different sizes, buy different colors. I think about what the outfit makes up in comfort definitely goes with the style. And thinking about buying that next size up. Calming techniques start with us as adults. If we're not calm and regulated, it's going to be really challenging for our child to stay calm. So when things start to escalate, we should lower our voice. When our child starts to yell or defy us, it's hard not to want to yell back, but try and validate their feelings and just point out what you see. Oh, your face looks really mad. Just by labeling an emotion, their studies show that we start to feel better and we start to feel validated. Another thing could be working on those breathing techniques that we talked about in the previous video, or having a visual that has their go-to calming down strategies. When we're really overwhelmed, it's so hard to come up with ideas of things that can make us feel better. So showing your child a visual that may have a picture of someone giving a hug, someone getting a drink of water, headphones, they can easily point to what they may need. And that can save us a lot of time and stress. To help prepare and feel more confident managing worries and behaviors, I would also recommend Dawn Huber has some great activity books out there. They're short chapters, they're fun, they're engaging, and even if your child is too young to have them read or to comprehend, it helps us as parents prepare. So we can feel more confident. We can feel more equipped to handle behaviors as they may start to come up, and we can share those with our child down the road. We received a question about what kind of therapist, psychologist, or counselor is best for a family or a child with BBS. What I would recommend is talking to your pediatrician, a friend, teacher, or local medical center or university for a recommendation on a pediatric psychologist. This is someone who, even if not familiar with BBS per se, is presumably comfortable and knowledgeable of the interplay between medical and psychological issues and is willing to learn more about BBS specifically. This is likely to save your family time and resources, given the opportunity for interdisciplinary, innovative care. Additionally, professionals who are familiar with developmental disorders and behavioral therapy is strongly encouraged for younger children and families. One of the viewers had a question about behaviors, which I'm sure many families with and without BBS can relate to. The question stated, "My daughter is 10 now. She was diagnosed about 5 years ago, and I wonder why she might be laughing in a great mood and then flipping a switch to screaming and crying real tears just out of the blue. I see this among children with and without BBS. And if you were in my office, I would start out by gathering some information about how you're able to handle this when it happens. How long has it last? How often? What makes it better? What makes it worse? Can your daughter talk about it? And what were they thinking or feeling afterward? I'd ask you to think if there are other people in the family who behave like this, either a child or adult, and what happened with them? Did they get a particular diagnosis? Did they get help for it? Did it just kind of go away on its own?" When consulting about behaviors, children and parents might have something in the back of their mind that they may be worried about, and this can be helpful to address first. Getting back to the question, what are some interventions to reduce and manage behaviors? What I would first start off with is going back to that anxiety and rigidity, looking at prompting for transitions or preparing for those changes. However, what we should be doing is using short verbal phrases. So 5 more minutes until drawing is all done. 1 more minute until drawing is all done. Oftentimes, children do not understand the concept of times. Adults don't often either. So using a timer can help reduce those meltdowns. And having that timer go off is another little auditory reminder instead of our kids just toning out our voices. When we give directions, have your child repeat or gesture back what it is that they're expected to do, so you know that your child understood. If your child starts whining or not following through during activity, provide him or her with a clear expectation. So if-thens. If we clean up, then we can have a snack. First, we need to put our toys away, then we can go play outside. This can help be very, very clear. We're not trying to rationalize, but limiting it to one sentence. When asking your child to do something, try to give 2 choices. These are called forced choices, and it helps give your child a sense of control over the environment and what may happen next. As we know, sometimes there's not a choice, and we can say this isn't a choice as well. Another thing that I think is important to remind families is allowing our children to be as independent as possible, definitely within reason. So if your child is able to complete a task without harming him or herself, allow your child to do it independently and give a lot of that positive praise. So overall, we may never know exactly the why to behaviors, why they may flip a switch, why they may have real tears one minute and be laughing the next, but we can try some strategies to make it better for you and your family. Lastly, as parents and caregivers, we need to be mindful and not expect the same performance during this COVID world as before. That's likely a recipe for disaster. Instead, we can rethink tasks and behaviors into reasonable terms and take on more of a positive, optimistic mindset. Being good enough is better than expecting to be perfect. And having this mentality alone can help get us unstuck and help us all to be a little bit more anxious. Thank you again for taking the time to view these videos and to provide your feedback. I will include links and attachments for additional resources that you and your families can view at your convenience. If you have any more questions or would like further clarification about what we talked about in this video or the previous one, feel free to reach out to Sonia. And remember, the BBS clinic may seem small, but there's a large community of support and resources out there for families and friends alike. We can work together to have a healthy, successful life.